Hello again, everyone. Today I am here with a somewhat small Jackson's haul, mostly Isaro watercolors. At the tail end of the watercolor sale that Jackson's had a little while back, I decided to stock up on some Isaro colors because they do tend to be a little bit expensive for their size normally, and since they were on sale, I wanted to take advantage of that. So the first three are actually not new colors, but I had not shown them to you yet. So I wanted to include these in my swatching. I actually already have these in a palette. So I'm going to swatch these three at the end. I already have these put out on the paper here, just a little dab of each of these colors. So I'm going to do these first, and then I'm going to go from the pans that I've created for these three colors. And then I wanted to also swatch these two because this I also got in the same order. They just kind of been in my wish list for a little while, and they were, well, I've tried the Molotov before, but this size acrylic marker is new to me. This is the first one in this brand that I've gotten in a 15mm size. And I have some of the really big Posca pens, and I really like the size, and I like how graphic the marks can be from these giant pens. So I decided to get one in a color that I liked for the Molotov brand. And then this is a new brand of acrylic marker that I've never tried before called Yono, and it's made by Marabou. And I got it in a neon orange, or it's neon orange. I was gonna say fluorescent orange, but it's neon orange. Not really a color I use that often, but I think I may have mentioned on some recent videos that I am trying to push myself into using fluorescents just to play around with them and see how I feel about them. I haven't expanded my collection of fluorescent things too large. Just really a couple of watercolors and a couple of markers and maybe one or two acrylic paints. So I'm just trying to keep it minimal, and quite frankly, once I'm through with them, unless I love them, I might not restock, but we'll see. But this is a new brand marker to me as well. So since these are already here, oh, and this is the little box that the watercolors were in from Jackson's, and they had a little thing on the bottom here about their sustainable packaging. It did have some packing peanuts, and they're talking about them being 100% compostable. And then they're just talking about those, but I think their boxes are also made out of recycled material, but I'm not entirely sure. So let's go ahead and get started with these. I have a little pot of water off to the side, and I have a brush here that I'm going to use. So this first one, and these are all Isaro brand, which I put these in my early 2022 favorites as far as a brand, and I have not been disappointed yet by any color that I've gotten. So this one is Isaro Gray Light, which is this one, but it doesn't look all that light on the paper in this form, so I'm interested to see what it'll look like once it's wet out. Okay, so this has PR 101 and PG 17, which is kind of an interesting combination for a gray. All right, I'm gonna load up some water on my brush here, and let's go ahead. Okay, yeah, so it is gonna be lighter when it is dissolved. So that's cool. And it does lean a little bit green for a gray. So basically I'm just trying to dissolve that entire little swatch there and then put it down. And let me actually zoom in just a little bit so you can get a better view of these. Okay, and this next one, Isaro has some really beautiful pearl colors. One of the other colors that I'm going to swatch for you is also a pearl color. This one is a Pearly Rose Light, and this has PR 101 and a pearlescent pigment. So let's see how this goes. Ooh, that's so pretty. All of their pinks are beautiful. Isaro does beautiful pinks. And this is really no different than the other ones I've tried. Really, really beautiful and lovely. It's going to be a little bit hard for you to see while there's this glare, but as they dry, you'll be able to see that a little bit better with the pearlescent And I will put these colors closer up to the camera towards the end. The next one is also another, I suppose you could call it a pearlescent color. This is called Stardust, which is essentially a gold. And it has PY42 plus pearlescent in here. So let me go ahead and wet this. And what was kind of nice, these dry so fast in Colorado. I literally put these out like a minute before I turned on the camera, but things dry fast here. What was I saying? I don't remember. If I do, I'll let you know. So that's the gold. It's a little bit hard to tell that it's iridescent right now. And it looks like this next one is also iridescent. It is called Glimmer Green. And normally iridescents are a little too much for me to paint with, like a whole painting with iridescence, but these have a really nice balance of pigment and pearlescence. So I think you could probably paint a whole painting with just these and it wouldn't be overly sparkly. Okay, so this is that Glimmer Green, which is PB29, PG7, PR170, and then pearlescent. So let's see. This one looks like it might be a little bit more sparkly than some of the other colors. But all of these colors have just been so pretty. I had a tube of one of these colors around just for forever. It's what's the one that I got first? I think it was Ultramarine Pink that I got from them first. And it's a really nice color, but I wasn't immediately drawn to it. So I just kind of left it in a pan and it kind of rotated around in palettes and I didn't really use it that much. But recently I have been, yeah, this is much more pearlescent. Recently I've been gravitating towards that in my palettes and I wasn't even really sure which brand it was when I was using it. And then I realized that that is the Isaro and I'm like, oh, well, this is a really, really nice watercolor. It activates really well. It spreads really nicely. Okay, and so this one is called Apaganthus Blue, which is PB29 and PV16. And I think that this is one of their newer colors. They came out with a bunch of new colors recently. And this is one of their newer colors. And this next color was really, really thick in the tube. This one here, the tube was super, super stiff. So I really kind of had to push it. And the pigment seemed very heavy in there. So it'll be interesting to see how this waters down. So this is PB29, PV16, and PBR7. So basically the same mix as this, but with PBR7 added. And these both should be granulating. That's the other thing. They have a lot of really nice granulating colors. Okay. Yeah, this one's a little bit harder to get started. And it's a little bit like an indigo color. And it's not a single pigment, so it does have quite a few pigments in there. And depending on how you feel about that, I'm okay with having mixes. I'm going to add more water to that. I'm okay with having mixes. And I actually have not found that mixing multiple pigment colors with other colors, for the most part, they don't really result in colors that aren't pleasing. So I know that's sort of like the general rule of, you know, try to mix with single pigment colors if you can. And that little bit, like I said, this was really stiff in the tube, but it's such a beautiful color. I'm trying to dissolve that last little piece there. I think, no, it's still there. And this has a ton of pigment, like it's really super pigmented. Okay, so that's really pretty. I'm gonna see if I add more water. Yeah, okay, I think we're finally done with that little bit that was there. And I'm gonna try to pull that up a little bit so that you can see the granulation, because you won't see it as well if it's too dark of a mix. Okay, and so then I'm gonna also swatch these colors before I put these close to the camera. These are ones that I'd gotten in a recent order. So this is sap green, boreal green, and pearly rose deep. So essentially this is a darker version of this. And I had put together all three of these colors in a flower, what I'm calling a flower color palette. It has a whole bunch of pinks and greens, and then it has this one blue here, which you're going to see in a larger swatch. But I love this palette. Like, I haven't even been using it for flowers. I've been using it just for abstracts. And for some reason, the pink and green combo right now is just really, really up my alley, and I'm really, really liking it. Okay, so let's go on to the sap green first. So let me make sure I add a little bit of water to these pans that we're going to be, that we're going to be swatching here. Make sure I have the last one. Yep. Okay. All right. So this first one is sap green, and it is PY139 and PG36. Okay. So I'm going to do that down here. But I mean, look at that. That's just so beautiful and radiant as a color. I just really, really like their colors. I'm just kind of surprised that I had not really latched onto this brand yet. All right, so the next one is Boreal Blue, which I have been a huge fan of. It's really, really beautiful. It's granulating. It has sort of a dual tone. This does have a little bit of pearlescent in it. It's PB29 plus pearlescent, basically. But I think there's something more than a pearlescent in here. And I mean, or maybe the pearlescent has a dark hue to it, because it has a really beautiful dark granulation going on. I'm gonna add a little bit more water there. I don't think I had enough in there. And I sometimes wonder if some brands kind of keep some secrets and don't want to tell you everything that's in their watercolors, because if this is just pearlescent that's making this granulation happen, it must be some sort of interesting pearlescent that I haven't come across before. Okay, so this last one here is Pearly Rose Deep, and this is going to be PR170 and pearlescent. And this is another really gorgeous pearlescent color, and I've been painting with this as if it were just a normal color and not necessarily just a pearlescent, and it works really, really well. These are all so pretty. I highly recommend these. I have not gotten a color I do not like yet. Okay, so now you can definitely see that pearly green, so this is kind of the sparkle that I'm used to with pearlescent or metallic watercolors. This is more because this is not wet anymore. This is dry. You can see it has as much shine as these colors here, but that is completely dry. It's completely dry at this point. And this is the only one that I don't think that I would use in a palette like a regular color, just because this is a little too intense on the sparkle. But that's the only one I've gotten that's like that. And they do have a really broad range of sort of pearlescent colors. This one is really beautiful, and I think you could use it as a regular color, even though it's clearly pearlescent, because you can see that shine. But the color is so subtle that I think it would be really nice to add to things as an accent, and it wouldn't necessarily scream pearlescent or metallic from your watercolor. And this gray, this is a really nice, useful gray. I think that'll work nicely in a lot of different palettes. It reminds me a little bit of, what is it, titanium gray from Daniel Smith? It reminds me of that a little bit because it's kind of neutral in that way. When it first went down, I thought it looked a little green, but it's looking less green now that it's dry, in my opinion. And then this one is that Stardust, which is really pretty, but again, not completely in your face. Like if you tilt it around, you can see that there's some sparkle to that, but it's not crazy like some other colors I've seen. Okay, and this is that Apaganthus Blue, which is really, really beautiful. At its base is PB29, which is ultramarine blue, so it leans a little bit more red as a blue. This is bordering on purple, I would say. but it's really, really pretty. I probably should have added some more water to this to show you off the granulation a little bit more. And this one, I think I put too much water because I was trying to dissolve that little bit that was left there. But you can see it's really, really pretty. And I am having a hard time believing that the only difference between these is one minor pigment. PBR7 is added for this color. It's essentially PBR7 is added to this for this color, and it has so much more of a rich tone. But you know, colors are magic. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of one color to do that. All right, this is the sap green, and this has pretty much become my favorite sap green. I really like Daniel Smith's sap green, but I think that this might edge out their sap green just a little bit. Sometimes sap greens can look a little dark or murky from some brands, but this is so vivid and beautiful. It's a great sap green. Okay, and this is that boreal blue. So now you can really see what I was talking about with the granulation, which is apparently just coming from pearlescent. But it's so, so pretty, and it doesn't come off as pearlescent on paintings. It just sort of has this really beautiful granulating quality, and it's really, really nice. And then this last one is the Pearly Rose Deep. So apparently it's the little bit brighter version of this, although this I would even call peachy. I would say it's more in the peach family than this one, which is more of a true pink, almost bordering on violet. So there's all the Isaro colors, which are lovely. Love them. Highly recommend them. So let's go ahead and try these markers too. Let me zoom out just a little bit so you can get those. I'm gonna go with this neon color first. So all of these markers work the same way, essentially, from any brand. You need to pump it to get it started. Oh, and that is a real risk. That's actually something that I'm not a big fan of for these markers. So basically this is just going to be a big blotch of neon orange on here. It's definitely a pretty neon orange, but then you've essentially wasted a bunch of your paint that's in here, because I only very lightly pressed on that. So far, although the color is really awesome, this Yono marker is not really impressing me that much because of that dumping of paint at the beginning. I am under pressure though here at, well, not pressure, I'm at a higher elevation. So pressure tends to build up in products here. And then I'm gonna be trying this Molotow One for All acrylic marker. Oh, and I'm just noticing now too that this Yono marker has quite a scent that's a little bit strong and chemically. I'm not a big fan of that because almost all, if not all, of the markers that I have already are very low odor to no odor, and this one is not low odor. So I'm wondering if it is alcohol based. It just says semi-opaque. No, it says it's water based. Matte, semi-opaque, suitable for almost all surfaces, partially light fast. Most neon and fluorescent colors are not totally light fast. And then it says water based. But yeah, this is kind of stinky, but it's very cool looking. That would actually look really cool as an accent on something. Okay, so what color is this? This is Lagoon Blue Pastel, I believe. And all of the other, so this has this big chisel tip here. And all of the other ones that I have used by this brand have not flooded like that one did. And that is true again here. So you can see how it's sort of coming down really gradually and not flooding the paper. I'm not really sure what it is that floods the paper, you know, whether things are just not, the mechanism is not sealing well or what. But yeah, this is more what I like. I like it to be a little bit more metered here so you can get it going. But that's a beautiful color. But then you've got this really nice broad line. So that's up and down, and then that's sideways. And you can also use the edge to create really nice marks, sort of like that. For mark making, you can do the same with the other side. And you can get really creative with these. I mean, you can, the big tip is almost like a big paintbrush. You can use it in a lot of different ways. But this one is a winner. I'm probably going to end up getting more of these big Molotow markers. And one of the reasons why these, I think, well, in addition to having great colors and working really well and not flooding the page like a lot of my Posca markers do, and even the smaller ones of these don't flood the page like that one did. So in addition to all that, it's refillable. So that's really, really nice, because then I can use this container again and I don't have to buy a whole new pen. I can just get a refill. And I just feel like that's a little less environmentally damaging, because you're not throwing this whole pen away. I mean, obviously you're going to get your refill in something, in a container, but I think it's at least a little bit better, and you're not just throwing away this marker at the end of the day. So there we go. All right, let me get you close up to those as well. That's going to stay wet for a really long time just because it did flood the page. I'm actually wondering, no, it didn't leak through, but yeah, and it's still like dripping. It's almost like I put a heavy application of paint on there. You can see the little bits that are dry around here. It does dry a little bit lighter, but still super vibrant and like eye burning for the neon. And then this is drying around the edges as well, and there's really not, if any, color shift when it dries. I've noticed that on my other Molotow markers as well, because sometimes, you know, certain pigments have more color shift when they dry. But this one works great. Love it. This is going to be a staple in a lot of my mixed media work. This is a very nice color. That it's sort of a bluish green pastel that I would probably use all the time in all kinds of art, because it's a color I really, really love. All right, well, that's all I had for you today. Feel free to subscribe to keep track of future videos on my channel. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. If you have any questions, feel free to ask below and I'll get to them when I can. And I hope to see you next time. But in the meantime, have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.